the day. Democratic strategist and former New York State Senator David Carlucci, NewsNation political contributor and Republican strategist Denise Gitsum. It's great to see you both. Denise, we're going to start with you. So I want to talk about polling and these numbers that show Trump voters are very much in favor of this war happening in Iran. But a different Reuters poll shows just 17% of Americans support boots on the ground there, although nearly 2/3 of respondents think that that is exactly what's going to happen. Give us your thoughts on the numbers. How much does President Trump, do you think, take that into consideration?
Yeah, I think Americans can all agree, regardless of whatever side of the aisle you're on, that we have a collective sense of PTSD from what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan. And so nobody wants, like anyone who says they want boots on the ground is crazy. Nobody wants American troops to be on the ground. But the reality is that a 3-week war thus far does not a forever war make. And if 6 months from now there's an unpopular boots on the ground quagmire in Iran, just like we found ourselves in with Iraq and Afghanistan, that might change. But right now, I think Republicans, at least, are committed to following the direction and the leadership of President Trump. And Democrats will continue to be reflexively oppositionalist because it doesn't matter what he says. They've proven that they're willing to self-immolate even on 80-20 issues that go against them. So this is not surprising to see this split. And I sure hope that we all remain opposed to having boots on the ground when it's not necessary. But wars are fluid and things change. And if those circumstances change, Americans are going to flex however that's sold to the American public.
And just a really quick follow-up there. I mean, you talked about Democrats. Do you think that no matter what President Trump does, his base, do you think this shows that they will always support him?
Yeah, I mean, I think the base will always support him. On the Republican side, MAGA has shown that they're like 90% behind him. What I don't understand is why Democrats are literally, I mean, I do. This is a midterm year. Let's be clear. The politics are obvious, and I'm sure David will jump in and chime right in on that. I mean, they want to capitalize on anything that doubles down on the affordability messaging, which will be so important in November. So Democrats will continue to pound on those issues, which is smart for them. But it's going to be in a vacuum of the larger question of what do we do with these existential threats to America, our allies, and peace in the world. And I think that that's a struggle that we're going to have to grapple with as Americans.
All right, so David, we're coming over to you now. President Trump has said, we don't really have a firm timeline, but he has said at various times that the war is almost over. But now he's also asking, or the Department of War is asking for this $200 billion from taxpayers for this fight as it moves forward. I'd like to listen to some of what the president said and then what we heard from the House Minority Leader Jeffries.
We're asking for a lot of reasons beyond even what we're talking about in Iran. This is a very volatile world, and the military equipment, the power of some of this weaponry is unthinkable. You don't even want to know about it. Oh, you could end this thing in 2 seconds if you wanted to.
It's our responsibility right now to end this reckless war of choice, to end the fact that billions of dollars have already been spent.
All right, David. So $200 billion, certainly nothing to sneeze at there. Are the Democrats, though, in a tough spot, not necessarily wanting to support all of that taxpayer money, but also wanting to support our troops? And again, as Denise mentioned, I mean, as we're heading into the midterms.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, what's happened here is the president has ignored history, right? He has not got the American people on board with what is going on here. We're talking about different things. We hear that Iran was weeks away from attacking our country. We hear about all these conflicting ideas, but the president has not laid out that case. So what does this mean? We're worried about mission creep. We're worried about, again, a war that will continue on and on. We're not sure of what it means to be successful. We hear conflicting things from top White House officials about, well, we don't have an imminent threat, but that's for the president to decide, and the president will decide everything and all things. And that is problematic because we don't know where the goalpost is. And if it were clearly defined in terms of what the threats are, what is the mission, and when will we accomplish that, that would be a lot better. This shouldn't be about Democrats or Republicans or independents. It should be about what's right for our country. And I think you're going to continue to see these polls go in a negative direction on this war and on the president in general. As you had people on before, the price of gas is ticking up. We haven't even seen the ramifications of this war yet in terms of how it affects our pocketbooks. The president's asking for $200 billion. They got $38 billion to build detention centers. Meanwhile, we have a housing crisis in our country. So this president talked about America first, but it's really like America last. And Republicans are just jumping on board and not really knowing, what is the end in sight. And that is problematic. Like my friend said before, the Republicans will do whatever Donald Trump wants. That's a problem for everyone. Look, the Democrats a big tent. We have conflicting ideas within our own tent, but that really makes us healthy because we can debate these issues. One of the biggest problems is that this administration, when they are pushed, when they are asked questions they don't want to answer, they automatically blame people of having Trump derangement syndrome. That is extremely problematic because I don't suffer from Trump derangement syndrome, and nor do millions of Americans. We just want answers to our questions and our concerns, and we're not getting them.
All right. So, Denise, members of both parties are certainly surprised by this request of $200 billion. It has not yet been formally presented to Congress, but we know that President Trump campaigned on not starting new wars. He talks all the time. We hear him talk about ending wars. We just talked about that polling among voters who absolutely support President Trump, at least on the Republican side. But my question for you, when Americans continue to feel the squeeze and constituents are contacting their lawmakers, do you think there's going to be some Republican resistance to this massive request?
Well, first, I just want to point out the fact that $175 billion were authorized as foreign aid to the Ukraine during the Biden administration. So to be suddenly upset about something while we're in the middle of a war, about $200 billion going to actually defend American troops in the Middle East and our bases, and honestly, world peace, seems outrageously partisan. So yes, I agree with David that we should actually
because we're not getting answers. We don't know what it's for.
No. And you know what? The administration has laid out very clearly what the objectives are of this war. Hegseth has said that there are 4, and they've been repeated by everybody. And we have had incredible success in the past 3 weeks at doing things that every Democratic president said they wanted to do and never had the guts to do, never had the gumption or the political
what's that?
desire.
Close the restrictive rules?
Unless you call saying don't.
What are these successful things?
So the reason
I hear success, but we don't know what that is.
Democrats have chosen. I'm actually talking. The reason that this continued resistance is happening, and yes, we're going to consider midterms and politics and all of that. But if this war comes to an end soon, and we need to strike decisively in order to ensure that we don't drag it out, then you're going to see things return to normal. It's going to be President Trump's top interest to bring prices of gas right back down to where they were when Democrats didn't acknowledge that they were the lowest.
President Trump said Save America Act is his top priority.
Well, let me jump in here because I just want to say that, there certainly are plenty of critics, including some on the